Hey there, welcome to a brand new episode of Muzikxpress. My name is Twan, and in this week's vlog you will see my interview with Ferry Corsten about 25 years of Gouryella, one of the most iconic projects in the history of trance music. But before we start with the interview, please make sure to subscribe to my channel, and very important, also make sure to click the bell button, because then you will get a notification the next time a new vlog is online. And if you enjoy my interviews and you want to support Muzikxpress, you can do that via one of the links in the video description. Every donation is very much appreciated. Alright, here it is, the story behind 25 years of Gouryella, my interview with Ferry Corsten. Enjoy! Gouryella is a project from Dutch DJ and producer Ferry Corsten. It actually started as a collaboration from Ferry together with Tijs Verwest, a.k.a. Tiesto. The Dutch duo released 3 singles together as Gouryella, Walhalla and Tenshi. After Tenshi, which came out in the year 2000, Tiësto left the project and Ferry continued Gouryella by himself. In 2002, the 4th Gouryella track, Ligaya, came out, and after that, the fans of Ferry had to wait for 13 years for the long-awaited return of Gouryella. In 2015, Anahera came out, which was a massive success. The track became Tune of the Year in Armin van Buuren's radio show, A State of Trance, plus Anahera became the best-selling trance track of 2015 on Beatport. It also became the longest #1 trance track in Beatport history and the first ever trance track to reach the Beatport Main Top 10. Since 2015, Ferry has been releasing new Gouryella tracks almost every year. After Anahera in 2015, he released the following Gouryella singles: Neba in 2016, Venera V-Steam in 2017, Surga in 2019, Orenda in 2021, and a brand new Gouryella track came out in May 2025, Marama, Moon and Stars. Because this year Ferry is going to celebrate 25 years of Gouryella, I recently made a visit to Ferry's studio for an in-depth interview about the past, the present and the future of the Gouryella project. My first question to Ferry was if he could tell how he and Tiësto got to meet.
Yeah, I met Tiësto when I was still buying a lot of vinyl. We have a street here in Rotterdam that in the 90s was sort of like the record street. There were all the record stores were there. All the DJs were also like mingling there on Friday night before you know going out. And Tijs was working in one of the record stores there, and he was always the one that gave me the records that I was really looking for. You know, I don't think there was anything yet that I called trance, but I was looking for this melodic stuff, and he was always the one that handed me the right tracks. And I also believe that I was one of the very few customers in that store that was looking specifically for that music. So we very quickly had a sort of like a connection. And you know, after a while being going there to get records, and we got to know each other a bit better. And he was already DJing, I was already doing my productions, and I was playing him out of the blue on that tape in the store. And we were all hanging out, and the Rank 1 guys were there, and a whole bunch of other DJs, and we were all hanging out. There was this whole sort of vibe going on. And with him DJing a lot in Holland, and us talking about music, at some point we connected and said like, hey, why don't we just go in the studio, and you come in as like the DJ with your skills, and I as the producer, and then together, you can tell me where you feel like this is needed, and I can just, come up with this and this, and we'll make it work together. So that's how it worked. And yeah, soon we had our first track, Gouryella by Gouryella, and then I believe it was in a city, the first in a city he played, and he's like, I'm gonna play tonight, and I was actually in the crowd when he dropped Gouryella for the first time. So yeah, and then we did the other 2 after that.
Yeah. So what's the meaning behind the word Gouryella?
Gouryella basically means heaven in native Australian language, and I'm not really sure what tribe, because they're all these different tribes, but yeah, it basically means heaven.
Yeah. So, but I think around the same time you guys also had the Vimana project. So what was the difference between the two projects?
Well, it was basically because I had Tsunami Records at the time, and we did Gouryella on Tsunami, and you know, the next release that we did together, we felt like, I would do that on Black Hole, which was Tiesto's label. So to just to balance it out. So there was no reason really as why Gouryella was there and Vimana was there. It was just like, you know, equal. This release with us, this release with you, and then so on. Yeah, the difference is we also needed to come up with a different name because, you know, Tsunami had the exclusivity on the name Gouryella, and so we came up with a different name, Vimana, for the Black Hole release.
Yeah. So what does Vimana mean?
Vimana is basically the name of a spaceship that was found in ancient India. Yeah, so you know.
Yeah. I always love those project names. Yeah. So what kind of equipment did you use for Gouryella?
What did I use for Gouryella? Back in the day, it was all hardware, right? So I definitely the JP 8000. That is sort of been my lifeline throughout my whole career, almost. I used one of the Roland models, like the 19. I can't remember which one it was exactly. 909 drum machine. I had a S1000 Akai sampler. You know, the cool thing is that back in the day, it was just you were so limited with your equipment that you just became really sort of creative. You know, working with a minimal amount of stuff. Versus today, where you have endless possibilities.
Yeah, you have like 1,000 kicks and
exactly.
10,000 snares and
yeah. 5 million channels on your mixer. You know, like we had a 24 channel mixer and a bunch of synths and a sampler and 2 effect units, and that was it. Yeah.
So someone told me that for the percussion, for a lot of your tracks back then, you mostly use the XX large no kick sample CD. He said like you did use it for tracks like Car Blanche and Mind Drive, but also for Gouryella. Can you confirm that?
It's very, very likely. Yeah, I use a lot of those sample CDs because, you know, they had these really cool little drum loops where the kick was filtered out, so easy to just implement them in your track and instantly gives it a drive. There's that. I definitely had XX large, no kick, killer kick, whatever. There was a whole series of that, you know, and also Vengeance. They had like a whole bunch of. I mean, you still see like I kind of dug them up again, you know, because I'm cleaning up. I do inventory of my old DATs and my old CDs, CD-ROMs and stuff, and also like I found all these old sample CDs. Yeah, so I mean,
the old sounds are coming back, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's perfect timing. Yeah, but exactly that XX large is there too. The other one as well. Like the whole everything I used back in the day is there again. So
the whole collection.
Yeah, expect some of that in newer tracks.
Good. So Gouryella came out in May 1999, and besides being played in the clubs and at festivals, the track got some radio airplay too. And in the UK, the single ended up at the number 15 spot of the UK singles chart. I guess getting radio airplay and a top 20 hit in the UK charts was kind of unexpected.
Yeah, we never expected to. Certainly not made this track to be in, you know, daytime top 40 stuff, the top 40 radio. We just made this so, you know, so Tijs could use it in his sets. Not long after that, I started DJing as well. So, you know, we made music for our sets. I still do today. And if one of those tracks, and you know, this is a good example, if it ends up being in the top 40. Then that's fantastic, because that means that you really reach a lot of people with that track. But it was never really the intention. It's not like Tijs and I sat here like looking at each other like we're going to make a top 40 track. You know, it just doesn't work like that, or at least not in those days.
Yeah, because it was instrumental. So yeah,
instrumental was more like a rave track than anything else. You know, so you know, but radio was great back in the day. You know, radio had the balls to just play stuff that was just not so formulated and formatted as it is today. You know, it's not like you needed the whole story and you needed like so many million streams on Spotify before one of the radio DJs even, you know, dared to play it. If there was personal taste involved and one of the jocks liked it, drop it, and it would grow within the station, and and it would spill over to other stations, and they would play it, and that's how something grew naturally, which was fantastic. Yeah,
I guess a lot of people miss those days, because now it's like, okay, how many followers do you have on your Instagram and stuff like that?
Yeah,
that seems to be like more important.
That needs to be first, and then quality of the music is basically not important anymore.
Yeah, crazy. So yeah, when you had like a chart in the UK, was this also when you guys decided there needed to be a follow-up single as soon as possible?
So that was the next one was Walhalla.
The first vocal Gouryella track?
The first vocal Gouryella track, yeah, which we never really used again as a vocal track after. But yeah, I mean, that felt really good at the time. So we found a moment to sit down together again, and I think there's still on an old Dutch TV show, you see, it was recorded in the studio a little bit, and you see us at work basically on the track, in my very old house. It's fun.
Yeah. So whose idea was it to make like a vocal track?
Ooh, I really can't remember. I can't remember how that came about. I know we first had the original instrumental, and then somehow I was working with some other people on other stuff, and I met this vocalist, and I remember asking her though, would you want to do something with us? But I can't remember who said like, oh yeah, this new Gouryella track needs to be a vocal track. Yeah.
So what's the meaning behind the word Walhalla?
Walhalla is, of course, it's like where the Vikings go, right? Like party on after you die, So yeah, I mean, look, we soon enough felt like with Gouryella and the title Gouryella and the response on the track, the response to the track, basically, we felt like, okay, I think we should just carry on with this idea of, using these sort of like exotic names with a title that has something to do with heaven or, the bigger out there.
Yeah.
And that's been it's been the tradition ever since.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a good tradition. Walhalla also did really well. The release had remixes from Armin van Buuren and Hybrid. Again, it got played on the radio in several countries. It also charted in the UK, the Netherlands, and in Norway. For both Gouryella and Walhalla, you and Tiësto got a golden record. So that's not a bad start for a brand new project, right?
Yeah, that was a good motivational sort of pressy that we got. Yeah.
So after Walhalla, it was time for another instrumental track, which became a Tenshi, which is the Japanese word for angel. Why did you decide to pick like a Japanese title?
Basically, again, going back to exotic words for each Gouryella track, and meaning something within the realm of heaven or the celestial or anything of that nature. I mean, I was playing in Japan a lot at the time, and I felt like, oh, you know what? I remember asking the guys over there that I work with a lot, like, what kind of words do you have for heaven and an angel and this and that? And then they said Tenshi, and I was like, oh wow, there's a really nice sweet ring to it. And the ring of the word felt that it fit with the track, so Tenshi became.
Because it's a pretty energetic track.
Yeah.
So were you inspired by something when you started to work on Tenshi?
No, I can't remember. You're asking me things about
tracks from a while ago.
20 plus years ago.
Yeah. No, I'm sure you did like 200, 300, whatever tracks and remixes after that. So
Yeah. What I do notice is that the kick in Tenshi was a lot more punchy than what we used in Walhalla, and I definitely wanted to play around with something like that. So this very short, sort of snappy bass line instead of the wobbly bass that people associate Gouryella with. That's definitely something I know we wanted to do as a different thing.
I think it's a bit more techy. Like I think Walhalla is a bit like this happy. How we're happy.
Mood,
yeah, exactly.
And this is a bit more edgy and
yeah. So I'm not sure if you want to answer this, but is it true that Tiesto was so busy at that time that he didn't even show up in the studio to work on Tenshi with you?
Oh, I don't even know. It's very possible. I mean, you look, like I said, he came in the with in the capacity of the DJ, with the DJ mindset and the DJ approach to music. You know, what does that do? What will this particular thing, by muting this or adding this, do to the crowd on the dance floor? He had a really good vision with that, and in the roles of the two of us, you know, I was the engineer, the musician. So I can't remember if I'm sure he was there too, but maybe he was just there, you know, to get the first idea done. And I finished it, but I can't remember if he was there or not.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Tenshi came out with remixes from ATB, Tranza, Retty, Mark Boon, and Roland Klinkenberg. So did you guys always pick the remixes, or was this usually done by the label?
Usually you pick the remixes in combination with the label. Yeah. You know, especially we at the time with Tsunami, we just had the original first, and that was the main track, and then it would be licensed to other labels in different countries where some of these names were really popping, and they would suggest these names, and you know, sometimes I've never even heard of some of the guys, and then was listening, wow, yeah, that's a cool sound, let's do it, right? And again, it was more a matter of taste versus now, like, oh, we suggest this remix, okay, how many followers does he have and how many streams on to his music, you know, it was different then.
Yeah.
So but yeah, you know, when you mentioned these remixes, I'm like, oh wow, we had a Retty remix, I can't even remember.
They're the guys from Scooter, right?
Yeah, I was just in a festival in the UK where I actually played Sunrise, so
Oh, cool. Oh, nice. Tenshi charted in the UK, and it made it to the number 45 spot of the charts there. I remember around that time that the rumors were already there that Tiesto was that you and Tiesto were working on a Gouryella album, but not long after that there were rumors that Tiesto left the project. And he actually left the project. What was this like a stressful time for you? Because you had a successful project and
no,
leaving.
It wasn't. No, I mean, look, you got to remember that also System F was really doing well for me, and Ferry Corsten was taking off more actually after Punk and all these tracks. So Gouryella, since our release was not like every month or 2 months a new Gouryella. I was just like, it had months in between, even like a year and a half, right? So it was a side project. Yeah. That's always how I've seen it. And so after Tenshi, it was a while already when I started to hear more people like, hey, when is the new Gouryella coming? It's like, that's when I started asking Tijs, like, hey, when you want to sit down again for the next one? And then it was quiet for a while. I'm like, oh, he's busy. And then when I spoke to him, he was like, you know what? I think I'm actually I'm trying to move on, sound-wise. I don't think I'm feeling trance anymore as much. I think this is it for me.
Yeah.
If you want to carry on with the project, by all means, go ahead. And that's why I also left it for a little longer, and then finally had like the inspiration for Ligaya after that. That was the number 4 Gouryella.
Yeah, and again a vocal track.
It was actually, yes. I made it as an instrumental track at first. That was the whole point. And the whole chord progression is actually that actually came from John Eubank, who wrote that for a Dutch singer, Marco Borsato. And I think it was my label partner who actually suggested those chords. So I was in touch with John, and I found that chord progression really worked well. The same way as when I did Adagio for Strings, my remix, the way I approached that could really work as well, super well with the chords for Ligaya. So eventually we had the instrumental, and I think it was Duco suggested, like, I kind of hear vocal here, you know, maybe you should consider that. And then John came up with someone he knew, Patty Lou, and got her to do the Ligaya vocal.
Yeah. So John wrote the lyrics?
Yes, I believe John with Patty wrote the lyrics. Yeah.
Okay. So what's the word? The meaning behind the word Ligaya?
Ligaya is Filipino for happiness. So yeah.
Yeah. Your wife is from the Philippines.
My wife is Filipino. So and me being on the search, for exotic words with a crazy with a great title or great sort of meaning, and we went over all the Tagalog words for heaven and this and that. But everything is Tagalog is a pretty harsh. Like when you hear it, not every word is as beautiful for these meanings, right? So and then she's like, yeah, well, Ligaya. Say that sounds nice.
Yes. Bingo.
It's not really something celestial or anything, but happiness is, it's good enough.
And you have to keep the wife happy, of course.
I kept her happy too.
So Ligaya charted in Germany and in the Netherlands. It came out with remixes from Green Chord, Heaver and Hammer, plus you did a remix yourself. And Pete and Banner from Rank 1 also did a remix, but their remix got rejected. What do you remember from that?
Nothing, actually. I can't really remember that. But I don't know. Maybe they came up with something that just didn't really meet the expectations. I don't know. Yeah. Sometimes it happens like that. You just have you ask someone to do a remix, and that comes with an expectation, with an image or whatever, and then it's a bit of like I expected something else. Yeah. So
after Ligaya, we had to wait for more than 10 years to get a new Gouryella. In June 2015, a brand new Gouryella track came out, which was Anahera. Why did it take you so long to come up with like a new Gouryella?
Yeah, it took me that long. I think that music changed. My personal interests in music changed. I remember after Ligaya, I went into this whole sort of electro trancey type of thing, and then EDM came up, and a lot of stuff changed, and I think I was just in a different headspace. I wasn't there saying like, okay, there needs to be a new Gouryella. Unlike the previous 4, where that was way more alive. I did see throughout the 10-year hiatus, I did see people like, oh yeah, I wish there was a new Gouryella. Will it ever come back? La 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 la. And then I remember that I at some point got so fed up with the whole EDM BS, put your effing hands up and la la la, wanted to jump, and and where trance was at the time as well, because trance tried to keep a foot on the ground by really mixing with that type of sound. It became harder and more like also like EDM-y. It's like, at some point I felt like I'm missing that sound. And I think I was just listening to some of my old stuff, and I came across System F, the Sonnet. I was like, wow, this track, there's something there. When I heard the chords, I'm like, wow, you know what? This track never really got the sort of spotlight it deserved. So, and I think if I just take that vibe, but then take the Gouryella ingredients, and I think that could really work.
Yeah.
And then there was nothing like that out there that sounded like that, so I mean, you can hear the spirit of the time in the tempo. The Anahera was 132 BPM, very slow compared to the 138 stuff, the previous Gouryellas. So but at the same time, 132 was already fast compared to all the 128 stuff. That was the standard tempo of like the 2014-15s, right? So so when I came up with that track, it really felt like very different from anything else that was out there. And I remember playing it for the first time. I think it was EDC, Vegas. And I mean, the look on people's faces was like, what the hell is this? Also not knowing what to do, because it was so different. And yeah, it just really blew up, and also the way we put it out in the market. You know, we went very like with a long sort of teasing period. You know, releasing a picture on, I think, on Instagram of every letter Anahera, right? Like over the course of a week, and then finally at the end on YouTube, like Gouryella.
Yeah.
Only I believe only a release date, not even the name or anything, something like that, something very cinematic, teaser, trailer like, and that's when just, you know,
and it blew up.
The hype blew up. Yeah. Oh my God, Gouryella is back. Yeah.
So what is the meaning behind the word Anahera?
Anahera. Yeah. Again, it's one of those names that ring really nicely. You know, that the words Anahera, there's something beautiful about it, and it actually means angel or messenger in Maori.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So were you nervous about the reactions from the fans and the colleagues, or did you know, like, I made something great, I'm sure they will love it?
Well, first of all, I loved it. That's where it starts. That's the most important thing. And I played it to a few people, and they were all like, "Holy shit! There's nothing like this. This is really cool." So I had a good feeling. You know, sometimes you have tracks that you make, and you think like, "Let's see," you know. It could be a risk.
Yeah. Plus, it was the return of Gouryella after like 12 years.
You know, a track like that. So much hunger out there for a new Gouryella. I knew it would hit the nail, you know, on the head. Yeah.
I'm trying to think what Tony from Above and Beyond said. He said something really nice in the radio show, like, okay, people were like expecting a new Gouryella, and you know, it better be good. And he said something like, better than good.
Yeah, it is definitely beyond expectations. Something like along the lines of that. He said, yeah.
Always nice to hear something like that.
Hey, that's great. Yeah.
So at that time, did you actually reach out to Tiesto, even though he hasn't been making and playing trance like he used to do, if he would be interested in joining the project again, or?
Not during Anahera, but before that, like a year or two after Ligaya, I remember we had dinner in Amsterdam, and we were still talking about it. And I know that he was like, yeah, okay. He asked me like, okay, so what if we were to do a new Gouryella? What's the direction you wanna go in then?
Big room.
Yeah, big room. Put your effing hands up. No, but we had a conversation about that.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Not for Anahera.
Not for Anahera, no.
So yeah, Anahera became a huge success. At that time, it was the best sold trance track on Beatport. It was voted Tune of the Year in Armin van Buuren's radio show State of Trance. Anahera also became the best-selling trance track of 2015 on Beatport, the longest #1 trance track in Beatport history, and the first ever trance track to reach the Beatport Main Top 10. Didn't you think, I wish I did bring this project back a few years earlier?
No, I think when Anahera came out, that was the right time. I think also that's why it became the success that it was. I think a few years earlier, people were not in that space.
Yeah, they weren't ready for it yet.
They weren't ready for it yet. The sound was so different. The mentality was very different. And I think we had to just collectively get to a point where a lot of people started feeling like, okay, I'm tired of this EDM stuff. You know, I want something else. I want something new and new. You know, and then Anahera came out, and that was just the answer to the call, I guess, at that point.
Yeah. So in 2016, you started doing some shows as Gouryella. How was this idea born?
That was actually really, really nice. I mean, so when Anahera came out, obviously it also got a lot of attention from a lot of the promoters around the world, you know, and particularly the guys from Insomniac in the US, and especially Dream State. And they were like, you know, we're always looking for like new concepts to bring to our audience, and just stuff with a wow factor, and something's new. And they were actually the ones saying, they will ask me like, have you ever considered doing Gouryella as a show, as a set? And I never had thought of it because, like I said, Gouryella was a side project. It was never really a main thing. But now the hype was on, right? And so yeah, I was like, you know, this could actually be really nice, you know. But I cannot do more than an hour because it just simply don't have enough music as Gouryella. So we were just talking about it and how we could just like form this show a bit. And instantly I had ideas of like come up with a very visually strong sort of show around it. Music wise, I had to get creative, you know. I had to look into the material that I had, and obviously by then some of the tracks were already like 17 years old, 18 years old, and they sounded like that. So I was like, you know what? If I want to make a Gouryella show that really works, I will have to, you know, rearrange some of these tracks. But I just don't have, you know, I don't have stems, audio stems. That was in the days when I just had a DAT tape with like a bunch of outtakes, you know, a drum loop here and a certain particular sound there, and maybe the riff there, you know, just for remixes, not to recreate the song. So there was only one option, and that was to recreate all the old tracks as well, in order to give me the freedom to rearrange it and to make it work in like for a show. So yeah, I recreated all the old tracks as well, you know, meticulously filtering where the original filter does this, and then, you know, really following it, like A/Bing it. Obviously you can never really get the exact same sound, but I wanted to have the old sound, the old way of doing all the filters and stuff, but with the punch of today, when you produce stuff today. So, because an old, like Gouryella would not stand up next to Anahera, which was sonically a lot tighter and bigger. So the only way to do that was just recreate all those old tracks. But with the idea that people on a dance floor would still think like, oh my God, I never knew that this track sounded so good still, you know, it's the new recording.
I think you also changed the BPMs?
Yeah, because I changed the BPMs because the old stuff was 138 and Anahera was 132. So, and to get that together, you know, it was a lot harder. Those 5 BPMs difference, yeah, you can hear that too much, even if you pitch it up or so. So I decided to recreate everything in 135 BPM, which is a little closer. So I could still pitch it up to 138. You still hear it still feels fine. Or slightly pull up Anahera Anahera and Neba and all the other tracks that were slower. So sort of like a middle ground BPM. But yeah, so then I still did not have enough music, but I had a few other tracks that I had just done, which was Follow You and Vuma. Those were on the Hello World EPs, and I was like, you know, those tracks actually with how they sound and what the emotion that they bring could really work well in the set. And we had I had one outsider in the set, and that was Dimension, because I had asked him to specifically produce a track for the Gouryella show, which was included, which was Dopamina, which had that same feel.
Yeah, great track.
Yeah, great track. And that was the first Gouryella show, just barely enough for an hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not even only Gouryella tracks, but that was 2016, I believe. Yeah. Yeah.
So at least now you can do a full Gouryella show. I think
now I have enough music.
Yeah. Now you can even leave tracks out.
I leave the tracks out, or I have to really edit them, make it shorter. Yeah.
So yeah, since the release of Anahera, we've been getting new Gouryella tracks almost every year. In 2016, you did release Neba. In 2017, Venera, V-Steam. Surga got released in 2019, followed by Orenda in 2021. And now in 2025, you have released Marama, Moon and Stars. Marama is actually the 10th ever Gouryella release. So yeah, good timing for the 25th anniversary of the project. Yeah. So what is the meaning behind the word Marama? Yeah, we can see it behind you.
Marama, let me read it out to you. It's basically, okay, it's basically moon in Maori as well, again.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess Maori, you know, and Gouryella are good friends, language-wise. But yeah, so and I was specifically looking for a word that had a meaning that would relate to moon or a celestial body or any star or sun. And I found Marama, and I was like, wow, it couldn't be better, because the Marama is a cover of The First Time I Ever Saw Your Face, mostly known by for the Roberta Flack song. But in dance lingo, it's known for the moon and the stars were the gifts you gave, which Way Out West used.
And it's funny because on social it's like, oh, it's a cover of Way Out West, The Gift.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine people think that, but there's a way bigger story behind it, that's why I love the whole thing about it so much, because it's an old track from the 50s, a song from the 50s basically, and seeing where Gouryella is with the meanings and the celestial and the spiritual and everything, and and the lyrics, the moon and the stars were the gifts you gave, coming from The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face, which is a ballad by Roberta Flack that I've always loved, really. It's such a beautiful song. So I was like, you know what? Way Out West, The Gift is one of my favorite dance tracks of all time. And that ballad I've loved forever, and the whole meaning behind it and everything. I think this should be the new concept for Gouryella. But it didn't start as a concept for Gouryella. I wanted to make a cover of The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face, and initially I had it done as a 126, so like deep housey, deep trance type of track. But it never really set well. I always felt like there's something, but it's not it. Then I had Marcus Schultz over here. He came by, so he stayed over for a few days. And we were nerding out in the studio, playing each other new music. And I said, oh, you know what? I still have this. Let me look it up. And it had been lying around already for like a year and a half, maybe, the idea. And then I played it to him. He's like, bro, as Marcus does. That's not, man, you know what? This is your new Gouryella. Push up the tempo. Listen to it, man. This is your new Gouryella. So we took the 126 track, warped it up to 138 or something. It's like, oh, man, yeah, you're right. You have a point right there. Goosebumps, So obviously the architect in my head was going like, okay, how can I just like rebuild this from this 126 thing to like something that's faster. So yeah, it became the fastest Gouryella track ever. Yeah, 140 BPM.
Thank you, Marcus.
Yeah. So that's sort of like in a nutshell the whole story behind that.
So, and it's the third vocal Gouryella track, and now comes the fun part, because you used the vocals of Saskia Lie Atjam for that one.
Yeah.
And for the ones who don't know, 25 years ago you released System F Cry.
Yeah.
And Saskia also does the vocals on that one.
Yeah, that's the first. Cry was the first time I worked with Saskia, and she did an amazing job on Cry. And seeing that Cry was just released last year again with the Circadian remix and the hype that that came off of that, I was like, you know what? Actually, I wanted to capture the soulfulness of that Roberta Flack had in her original vocal. Let me ask Saskia if she still would be up for recording something. It's so up.
She still knew you.
Yeah. So obviously, we've been in touch sort of like shortly before the Circadian remix of Cry, because I kind of wanted to have Saskia perform for my show, my What the F show here in Rotterdam, to do Cry, but that didn't happen. So we're in touch, and then Cry, the Circadian remix came out. So we've been in touch more since. And then I was like, you know what, Sas, I think you could be great for this. And so that's how she came back into the picture. Yeah.
So she did a vocal on a System F track and a Gouryella track.
There you go.
Hey,
yeah.
Maybe next time a Ferry Corsten track.
Should be, yeah.
So for Marama, I guess you did use the good old JP 8000 again?
I did, yeah. Just not this one. I used the software version.
Oh,
yeah. So which is slightly different, but it gets very close to that. But I used the same old wobble bass that a lot of people are after. you know, from the first Gouryella. It's in there too. So there's a lot of elements from previous Gouryella tracks that I brought back, which I tend to do with all the Gouryella tracks, you know. So it's still all part of the same family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Marama did pretty well. I mean, it was Beatport #1 in the trance charts. I think it got supported. Let me check. Armin, Paul van Dijk, Marcus Schulz, of course, Solar Stone, yeah, a lot of other people. So do you think Marama might be another possible Tune of the Year contender?
I don't know. I've seen people shout about that, but look, it's so early to say that. You know, it's June now almost, and we still have half a year to go. So I'm sure there's a lot of people coming up with great music over the next few months. So it's really hard to say that.
So yeah, you did 10 Gouryella releases now. So what are the 3 key ingredients for a Gouryella track?
Yeah, you know what? That's really, really, really hard to say, to answer. There's a drive, there's a certain, the use of certain sounds, like I said before. But the main thing is the emotion. And Gouryella carries a certain emotion that not every track that I produce has. You know, it's not like, oh, I produce the next trance track and yeah, that's the new Gouryella. It's a very deliberate choice of which tracks will be, you know, the new Gouryella. And if you ask me like, okay, but what is it exactly? There is no exact. I need to feel it. It's like, this is it, but no, I don't feel that. And so it doesn't. It's not a Gouryella.
No, okay.
You know, and I get a lot of demos from guys like, oh yeah, you know, it's inspired by your Gouryella tracks. I listen to it and everything is just like trying to be that. The sounds are very similar and this and that but the emotion is way off. And I'm like, no, this is not a Gouryella track. It's just that one particular thing that your gut feeling says like, yes, this is it. And I can't say, oh, it's because the melody does this or that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So did you ever have like tracks that started out as a Gouryella track, but you were like, and that ended up as like a Ferry Corsten track?
No. What does happen is I started off as a Gouryella, as a track for myself, Ferry Corsten or something, and then that's way more housey or a bit of a techie thing or maybe even a trance thing, and then, you know, in the process I hear like a little ARP that I typically use for a Gouryella, and I played it and I'm like, wow, okay, no, I put this aside. This could already be something. This already. You know, again, my inner architect starts spinning here, like, you know, and I can already hear what, but this ARP could have this function in a Gouryella track, right? And then on the next project, I could be sitting there and looking for chords for the, let's say, call it the Ferry Corsten track that I'm working on, but I'm actually looking for chords that works for this track, but I actually play something else, and I'm like, oh, this is okay. Park in the side. Yeah. This could be for Gouryella. Yeah. And that, like, those little ideas and sketches that I find along the way, eventually put together in a folder, come together as a Gouryella.
How big is that folder?
Look, unfortunately not that big, you know? Yeah, I wish I had material in that folder for the next 14 Gouryella tracks, right. But it's not. You know, it's very rare. It's like I said, that's why I'm so particular about which melodies or whatever will be there for Gouryella. Yeah.
So yeah, every Gouryella title has a special meaning, and out of all the 10 Gouryella titles, they all seem to end with the letter A, besides Tenshi. So yeah, so far they've all been in a different language. So how do you pick the titles?
I think it's just a pure coincidence that they all end with the letter A. It's not intentionally really. I don't know. I just go. I really scour the internet. I just go. You know, sometimes it takes me a day or 2 days for you know, to find words that have that sort of thing. And
but that's more difficult than producing a new Gouryella track. Finding the right title.
Find the right title. Yeah. Well, now because of there's already 10 such titles have been used. Yeah. So it's not like there's plenty more words out there that have that same sort of...
You want it to be like a unique title, of course.
Yeah, it needs to be a unique title, preferably non-English, you know, because it should be a language that still feels exotic for a lot of people. Yeah. And like I said, it needs to have a nice ring to it. it could be a very ugly word with a beautiful meaning, but if the word sounds ugly, it doesn't, you know,
It's not right.
it's just a combination of a beautiful flowing word with a beautiful meaning in a beautiful exotic language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're celebrating 25 years of Gouryella now. So yeah, besides the release of Marama, are there any other things in the works?
Yeah, we're thinking of celebrating 25 years Gouryella with a bigger item, and yeah, that's very, very likely to happen at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but can't say much about it yet.
Okay. Yeah, so I know you just released your artist album Connect on vinyl. So what about a special vinyl release, like with every single Gouryella release or something like that?
Yeah, that is along the lines of what we're thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's still going to be bigger than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm very curious.
Yeah.
So yeah, how important has the Gouryella project been for your career?
Actually, quite important. As you know, considering that it started as a side project. Ever since I started doing these shows, you know, it's been a very how can I say it? It's been in demand since, you know, with a lot of promoters still, you know, guys that normally book me or I'm playing for as Ferry, but want to do something different this time, like Transmission or Dreamstay or, you know, some of those bigger festivals. Yeah, so it's one of those, you know, cool projects that can extend. Yeah, you know, and every time when there's a new Gouryella track, the show changes again and, you know, has a new face.
Yeah, so yeah, this might be a difficult question, but do you have a personal favorite Gouryella track?
That is really difficult. Yeah, that is really difficult. I definitely think that it's going to be a toss-up between Neba, Surga, and Venera. I think those three. Obviously, I love them all, but yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
So yeah, when you look back to 25 years of Gouryella and everything you did achieve with the project, are there things you did in the past which you would do differently now? Like, for example, the video clip of the first Gouryella track.
Yeah, the video of the first, and I think it was the first one and the second one. I think actually those clips. You know, I mean, when you look back at them, they look so silly. But you gotta remember that was done in a different time. I know this is 25 years ago.
And I think that you call it like the way it was done, the graphics. And
yeah,
it was brand new. It was like
the technology, like the computer graphic sort of cartoon type of character thing. That was super new for those days. It was sort of like, wow, this is so cool. You know, and we had like a little nature Australian guy running around in the video, you know, and people today may think like, oh, that's really bad, you can't do that. But back in the day, this was made as an homage to, you know, we borrowed your word, your name. So here, but you know, those two videos didn't really stand the test of time. So I think we've removed them already, and we're going to replace them soon with new videos.
I still like the video clip of Ligaya. I think that was
Tenshi, Ligaya.
Yeah.
Those were really, really beautiful videos. Yeah. So I mean, since when those came after, you know, after the first two videos, that set the bar a bit higher. So yeah.
So is there still something on your bucket list for the Gouryella project, like doing a collab with a certain producer or maybe a vocalist for a future Gouryella?
Yeah, I don't know. This is really hard. Again, Gouryella is still a side project, and it's also a bit of a project that just goes with the flow. Yeah. Right. I mean, if tomorrow the whole music scene changes again and my headspace is not there, then there will not be a Gouryella in so many years, right? So it is just it's so that I'm there right now. So if I run into someone tomorrow that says like, oh man, I would love to do vocal, or I hear that vocal, or I hear I meet someone who writes top lines a certain way, and like, wow, this could work. It's just a spur of the moment.
Because I'm thinking now the three vocal Gouryella tracks are all done by females, so maybe a male vocal, or
never say never. Yeah, okay. That's I think that's the sub phrase that I always use for Gouryella.
Same.
It's a new Gouryella.
Yeah, it's always a good answer, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much for your time and good luck with everything.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. You too.
Alright, that was it. This week's vlog, my interview with Ferry Corsten about 25 years of Gouryella. Ferry, thanks a lot for your time. Much appreciated. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the vlog. If you did, make sure to give this video a like, leave a comment in the comment section below, and very important, make sure to subscribe. Also make sure to click the bell button, because then you will get a notification the next time a new vlog is online. And in case you missed it, I did several other interviews with Ferry. Those are all available on my channel already, so make sure to check them out. Once again, thanks for watching, and until next time, bye bye.